All right, folks, buckle up because we've got one heck of a weather pattern unfolding right in front of us. And trust me, the next 4 days are going to be absolutely wild. I'm talking snow, ice, bitter cold that'll make you question why you even stepped outside. And then, just when you think winter's finally showing up to the party, a massive storm system brewing for next week that could deliver serious snow to places that have been starved for it all season long. I've been analyzing the models all morning, and let me tell you, there's a lot to unpack here. So grab your coffee, settle in, and let me walk you through what's about to hit us from Thursday all the way through Sunday. This is the kind of setup that gets me fired up, and I think you're going to find it just as fascinating as I do. Let's kick things off with Thursday, February 5th, which is today. Right now, we've got an upper-level low spinning its way out over New England, basically saying goodbye and exiting stage right. But here's where things get interesting. There's a short wave diving down through the plains, and if this pattern looks familiar to you, it should. We saw almost the exact same thing last week, and that led to a significant southeast snowstorm. This time around, it's helping to fire up an area of low pressure down in the Deep South and Tennessee Valley, and it's going to track northeast. Now, I want you to pay attention because we've got not one, not two, but three distinct pieces of energy all playing together in this atmospheric orchestra, and the subtropical jet is absolutely screaming right now. By the way, if you'd like specific weather forecasts for your region or city, please leave them in the comments. I'll answer them individually as time allows. Also, if you like the video and subscribe to my channel, you'd be very grateful. Now let's move on. Here's what's happening on the ground today. Winter weather advisories are already posted across parts of North Carolina. We're talking snow mixed with some ice accumulation in these areas, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if those advisories get expanded westward as the day progresses. The way this low pressure develops is going to be crucial. Down along the Gulf Coast states, we're seeing thunderstorms rumbling through, and up in Virginia, man, Virginia has been getting hammered with snow this year. They're dealing with thunders now. I actually watched a couple of intense snow bands set up there earlier, dropping an inch or two in practically no time. Meanwhile, northern New England is getting hit under that upper-level low influence, and there's a clipper system marching through the Great Lakes ushering in even more frigid air behind it. Temperature-wise, we're seeing below-freezing readings across a huge chunk of the country, but it's not as brutal as what we've experienced recently up in the Great Lakes. Today's highs are actually climbing into the 40s in some spots, which is setting us up for rain this afternoon. But here's the catch. Those temperatures are going to crash hard, and that's when we transition into potential snowfall for the Carolinas, Virginia, maybe even Tennessee. Down south, temperatures are unusually warm, sneaking up into the northern plains as well. But tonight's a different story entirely. Overnight lows are plummeting into the single digits across the Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, and Northeast. Even the Deep South is dropping below freezing. And get this. Cuba just set an all-time low temperature record. They hit freezing. Can you even wrap your head around that? That's how intense this air mass has been. Now let me show you what's really fascinating about today's setup from a meteorological standpoint. Remember those three pieces of energy I mentioned? Look at how this is positioned. We've got a positively tilted trough running northeast to southwest. This is actually a textbook example. The last system that came through was tilted more neutrally, and that allowed way more moisture to get wrapped up into it, creating a much stronger storm. This time, it's swinging through at a very positive tilt with another piece of energy right on its heels, basically kicking it out of the way. It doesn't really turn neutral until it gets along the coast, and even then, we're not looking at a major wound-up storm. This is going to be a quick hitter with relatively light precipitation for most areas. As we roll through Thursday afternoon and evening, rain develops across the southeast, maybe even a few rumbles of thunder over the Florida Panhandle by mid-afternoon. Then around 7 o'clock tonight, watch what happens. We start seeing those pink shades pop up on the radar, that's snow, in northern North Carolina and back into Tennessee. The mountains of West Virginia, and Kentucky are going to pick up snow, and Virginia, well, you guys just can't catch a break this year because you're getting even more. By 10 o'clock tonight, freezing rain develops right along that boundary between rain and snow. We're not talking about a major event here, but there could definitely be a band or two of snow that sets up somewhere in this region, most likely over the eastern and northern sections. The northern mountains, especially parts of Virginia, could squeeze out an inch, maybe even a couple inches from this thing. Outside the mountains, if we're going to see any real accumulation, my money's on the Roanoke Rapids area and then southeast toward Virginia Beach before it's all wrapped up. Here's the tricky part, though. Temperatures are going to be crashing as the precipitation moves out. That's not a recipe for a blockbuster winter storm, but it absolutely could glaze some surfaces with freezing rain. I'm not forecasting power outages or anything catastrophic like that, but this is mainly going to occur after sunset and continue through midnight into Friday morning. Let me break down the temperature profile for you because this is critical to understanding what type of precipitation we're dealing with. This afternoon, surface temperatures climb into the 40s, so when it's raining, it's just going to be plain rain because the air temperature supports it. But as we roll into 5 and 6 o'clock, temperatures start dropping into the 30s pretty quickly. There's some dry air working in from the north, and we're seeing cold air advection at the surface. By 10 or 11 o'clock, northern North Carolina drops below freezing. That could cause some freezing on the roads, and we're looking at potential flash freeze conditions. When temperatures drop rapidly after dark and water's still sitting on the road surface, it can flash freeze in spots. If you're out driving late this evening, be really mindful of that. But here's what I really wanted to show you. The upper-level temperatures tell a different story. About a mile up in the atmosphere, we're still above freezing even when surface temperatures have already dropped below 32 degrees. So, whatever's falling during the early evening hours is likely still in liquid form, but as surface temperatures keep crawling below freezing, some of that rain could freeze on contact. That's freezing rain. Eventually, through the evening, those temperatures at the upper levels come down too, and you can see the freezing line clearly marked. By late overnight, much of northern North Carolina back into South Carolina is below freezing aloft, but out west, precipitation is already tapering off. We're trying to time these two atmospheric layers to sync up, getting everything below freezing before the precipitation exits, so we can maximize snowfall potential. Snowfall totals, according to the model, show the biggest band setting up in northeast North Carolina and in the mountains, extending back into parts of Kentucky, Virginia, and West Virginia. A little sleet is possible, but I'm not really expecting a lot of that. Freezing rain could produce a couple hundredths of an inch of glaze on elevated surfaces. It probably won't accumulate on roadways until temperatures drop quickly later overnight, and then that water sitting on the pavement could freeze in spots. Not a huge deal, but I wanted to lay it all out so you understand exactly what's going on. Outside of this, the only other action is some light snow across the northern states. Moving into Friday, February 6th, we've got a clipper system pushing through the northeast and into the Great Lakes. Watch snow work through Michigan, northern Indiana, and back into Illinois. Maybe a few flakes in Ohio, though the models want to kill that off pretty quickly. But here's the thing. There's another system hot on its heels coming in Friday. Whatever Ohio doesn't get on Thursday, you're going to make up for on Friday. Toledo, Cincinnati, Columbus, everybody's getting in on it. Charleston, West Virginia, then of course Pittsburgh up into Erie, maybe even State College picks up a few flakes. Friday night, this extends out into the eastern sections of Pennsylvania, Harrisburg, Allentown, places like that, and then Philadelphia up into New York, Albany, Buffalo, Utica, Ithaca, and all the way through New England this weekend. And speaking of the weekend, there's a big storm system developing off the coast. How many times have we seen this frustrating pattern? If you could just pick up the entire United States and shift it about 500 miles to the east, we'd have massive snowstorms all winter long across the East Coast. But that just hasn't been the case. Saturday evening into Sunday, we're looking at more rain moving into the Pacific Northwest. Sunday is when the temperature story becomes absolutely brutal for the Northeast. We're talking about a major Arctic blast slamming into New England. Temperatures are going to drop below zero in spots, maybe substantially below zero. This is the kind of cold that bites right through your jacket, the kind that makes your car not want to start in the morning. Meanwhile, out west it's going to be relatively warm, which just shows you how split this country is going to be temperature-wise. This bitter cold hangs on through the weekend and into early next week before finally moderating. But here's where things get really interesting, and this is what has me watching the models like a hawk. As we push into next week, and I'm talking about midweek and especially by Valentine's Day, February 14th, a major storm system is going to develop. The pattern is beginning to change significantly. Energy is going to start flowing across the country, and we're looking at the potential for a big storm that's going to impact somebody in a major way. The question is, Who gets what? The models are showing different solutions, but they all agree on one thing. There's going to be a significant storm. Some models are tracking this along the northern tier of the country over into the Ohio Valley, and we could see a severe weather threat emerging by Valentine's Day in the deep south extending through parts of the mid-Atlantic. At the same time, we're looking at snow around the Great Lakes, northern Great Lakes, up into New England. One scenario shows a 980 millibar low winding up in the northeast, bringing heavy snow to northern Maine before some of it changes over to rain. Other model runs are showing what we call a Miller B setup. That's when a low-pressure system tracks up through the interior and then a secondary low forms off the coast, in this case, off the coast of North Carolina. Where that coastal low reforms is going to be absolutely critical. If it reforms farther south with high pressure wedging in from the north, we could be looking at a massive ice storm extending down into North Carolina, with heavy snow for Pennsylvania, southern New York, New Jersey, and coastal New England. This is the kind of setup that could deliver significant winter weather to areas that haven't seen much of it all season. There's even a blocking pattern developing around Greenland as we head toward the end of next week, and that could act to suppress the storm track southward, which would favor that Miller B solution. This is the type of pattern that gets meteorologists excited and nervous at the same time because the impacts could be substantial. Anybody from the Midwest into the Great Lakes and southeast of the Mississippi River needs to be paying very close attention as we get closer to Valentine's Day. The long-range pattern shows that polar vortex lobe pulling out, and we're going to see temperatures moderate and push east through the middle of next week. But out west, we're starting to see troughing develop, which means energy coming in with rain for the coast and potentially snow building back into the interior west with these systems over time. So that's your 4-day forecast and a peek ahead at what could be a truly significant weather event next week. Thursday brings our quick-hitting system with snow and ice potential for the mid-Atlantic. Friday continues the snow across the Great Lakes and Northeast. Saturday and Sunday deliver that punishing Arctic cold to New England while a coastal storm spins harmlessly offshore, and then all eyes turn to next week's major storm potential. This is exactly the kind of evolving pattern that keeps me glued to the models, and I'll be tracking every twist and turn. Stay weather aware out there, especially if you're in those winter weather advisory zones today, and I'll have much more for you tomorrow as we continue watching this incredible pattern unfold.